So let's look at how we can solve any quadratic equation, and that will involve using I. So up first we have x squared plus 4 equals 0, and let's use our basic quadratic solving skills. That means we're going to subtract 4, so we'll have x squared equals negative 4. Now to isolate the x, we're going to square root the left side and square root the right side. Don't forget that plus or minus. The left side will equal x, the right side plus or minus. We can split up that negative 4 into negative 1, square root of negative 1, square root of 4, and this will become plus or minus that square root of negative 1 is I. The square root of 4 we know is 2, and really the better way to write it is plus or minus 2I. So if you have just an integer, put the I to the right of it. If you have a square root, like the square root of 3, put the I in front of it. Our next example is x squared minus 2x equals negative 10. Again, let's use the skills we've learned before. So we're going to move everything to one side and set it equal to 0. Now you have to ask yourself, it's a quadratic. Can I factor it? Well, let's see, 10 is 5 and 2. That's not going to work out to be negative 2. So that means we need to either do completing the square or the quadratic formula. Both will work. I'm going to use the quadratic formula, and then on the side I'll show you the completing the square as well. So if we're going to use quadratic formula, our a equals 1, our b equals negative 2, and our c equals 10, we'll get negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a. If we simplify this, we'll get 4, and no we won't. We'll get 2 plus or minus the square root of 4 minus 40 all over 2, and we'll have 2 plus or minus, here's where that negative comes in, negative 36 over 2. Now before we would have said there's no real solutions, and that's true, but we can write it as a complex number. This will give us, let's simplify that 36 into 2 plus or minus the square root of negative 1 times the square root of 36 all over 2, which will equal 2 plus or minus 6i over 2. And now we can simplify everything by dividing by 2, and we'll get 1 plus or minus 3i as our solution. And up here, I also did it using completing the square, where we're adding 1 to both sides. When we square root, we'll get the same answer, plus 1 plus or minus 3i. In fact, I think completing the square was less work than the quadratic formula. And let's practice with one more example. We've got 2x squared plus x plus 1 equals 0. Again, you want to try to factor, but that means it needs to multiply to be 2 and add to be 1, and that's not going to be factorable. So that means, again, we want to do either completing the square or the quadratic formula. I'm going to definitely pop on using the quadratic formula, especially because I've got a 2 as my leading coefficient. So again, let's set up our a, b, and c. We get 2, 1, and 1, and now when we plug them into the formula, we'll get negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times that a. Continuing to simplify, underneath that radical, we'll get 1 minus 8 over 4, negative 1 plus or minus radical negative 7 divided by 4. Now here's where we can pull out that I, right? The square root of negative 7 is going to be the same thing as I radical 7, because again, remember this, we can rewrite as the square root of negative 1 times the square root of 7, and that square root of negative 1 is our I value. And don't forget, this is all over 4. Now remember, when writing, we want to write a complex number as real part and then imaginary part. So this is going to give us negative 1/4 plus or minus I radical 7 over 4. That works as an answer, or if you wanted to rewrite it as just the fraction and do radical 7 over 4, here it would be okay to put the I at the end. So either one of these will work for the solution of this problem. And that's solving quadratics, ending up with complex numbers as answers.